Hey everyone, it's Will Kern from Endless Events back again with another episode of Event Icons. I'm so excited to be here with one of our lovely clients, Taylor Miller, who you guys are going to meet just shortly. And her company is doing something really incredible with sponsorships. And I think it is a great example for a lot of people to learn about, especially in this day and age where a lot of people are worried about losing their sponsorships. What's going to happen? How can you create reoccurring, year-long sponsorships, so then that way you're not worried on an event by event basis. Is the sponsor going to come back? Oh no, I got to make sure they're happy, all that sort of stuff like that. So you're going to love this episode. If you're struggling with sponsorship, you're going to learn a lot. So let's dive in, let's rock that intro and launch this week's episode of Event Icons.
Hey, it's time for another episode of #EventIcons, presented by Endless Events. The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Just follow us on social media to ask questions. Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch live on any of our social media channels. Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons.
All right, like I said, we have an incredible guest today, and I got to bring her in and introduce her because she's going to have so many ideas, and she is in the weeds, super tactical, has a lot of great ideas, and super duper smart. So I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest for the week up to the show, Miss Taylor Miller in the house. Thank you so much for joining us. Taylor is the senior event manager over at United Planners. United Planners Financial. I always forget the full name of it. Yes, services. Dang it, I was so close. So, so I'll give a chance. So I'm sure we'll get a chance for people to ask a little bit about your guys' model, but you guys aren't an event agency. You're a planner within a larger company, which I think is really even cooler because a lot of people are trying to do that similar stuff. But I want people to get a chance to learn about you and kind of what you do. And then we're going to dive into how you are doing your sponsorships. Cool. And yes, shout to Ty. Ty's straight up coming in the comments asking if we're live. Yes, Ty, we are live. Thank you so much. This is not a pre-recorded show. This is all live right now. Yep. So thanks, Ty, for joining. So real quick, let's dive with the first question. I always love to ask Taylor, tell everyone like what got you in the events industry, what got you to where you are today, and like, how you became the senior event manager over at United Planners.
Well, thank you, Will. That intro is a lot to live up to. I actually started out young and I was in student council, and it just kind of progressed from there. And my love for the sea kind of brought in a little bit of an aspect because I thought I was going to be a marine biologist. Well, biology 101 in me in college just didn't work out. So I went into hotel and restaurant management, and my love for restaurants just kind of came from it. And I just started marketing for restaurants. I became a general manager of a restaurant really young, and it kind of just fell into place where I just started marketing. And that's how I became an event planner. And how I became with United Planners. We're a broker-dealer wealth management firm. So we're not a bunch of, event planners. We deal with finances. And for us, it is one of those things where I was sitting next to somebody in a restaurant and they heard what I did. And next thing I know, a month later, I had a job. So that's kind of my story. And I've been doing it now. Oh goodness, I was in restaurants for about 15 years and I've been with United Planners for over 3.5.
Wow, that's great. Wait, I didn't know this part of the story. You were literally sitting next to someone and they're the one who got you a job, basically just randomly sitting right next to you?
So randomly, I was laughing because I was telling my sister I was going to pick her up from the airport, and I was like, I'm going to pick you up in a cow suit. And she was like, oh my gosh, you better not. And we were just going back and forth and I was laughing. And the gentleman next to me was like, you have to tell me what you do. Like, you're giggling. Like, what are you laughing about? And I told him what I did, told him that I worked for, a beer distributor here doing marketing and events. And he was like, we're looking for a manager, an event manager. Would you ever be interested in jumping over? And I was like, finances? Like, I don't know about this. Are you guys like, up stuff? Like, I'm not that way. Like, I don't know. And I went in, and next thing you know, my boss came in with like a Patagonia flat bill hat and Heelys. And I was like, wait, where did I just walk into? So that's how I got my job.
That's incredible. Like, so, I mean, like, that's definitely the complete opposite of what most people say, like, dress to impress. Like, you were dressed up as in a cow suit, ready,
Yeah,
and and you ended up getting a job at a
what
financial.
I thought
It's
I
like,
was doing, and yeah, it didn't work out.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was
But
fun.
and to give people a little bit of background, because I think that it's important to also understand a little bit of the context of the types of events. Like, how many different events are you planning? What types of events are you usually planning? Like, what's the makeup of your kind of like portfolio events that you're working on?
Yeah, so a lot of my events are more corporate based. We, national conferences, trainings. There are little synopsis that go off to the side for a day, day and a half, regional meetings. And then inside of our home office here in Scottsdale, I plan all of our reaching out events. So all of our corporate stuff that we do at the home office, when it comes down to doing something with a food bank or doing things just charity outreach, that's something that I put together. And we have a little team of us here at United Planners that about 7 of us that kind of come up with ideas on how to give the home office something to do, how to do something for charity. And every year for the past couple of years, we've had a charity that we really work hard with and try to sponsor or give money to, or, just try to do something for.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And so when we were kind of talking, it feels like months ago now at this point,
Right.
years ago we were talking.
Right.
We were talking a little bit about, and to give people a little bit of context, that we're recording this in July 2020, which
Right.
is probably in the history books as like craziest year for events. And you and I were talking about how how your sponsorships are set up. And I think one of the things that was really exciting, that and why I wanted to bring you on the show and kind of kick off into this topic, is that your guys' sponsorships are not the traditional, what I call event sponsorships, where a lot of events are like, oh, we're going to have, a title sponsor of the event, and, a platinum and silver and gold. And, every year they try to like get that sponsor to say, did you get your Valley? Did you get all your leads? Did you get all your business? Like, please come back. You guys do things a little bit differently. So I think this is going to raise a lot of questions. So, and again, by the way, the show is live, guys. So ask questions. Taylor's here to answer your questions right now. Taylor, talk a little bit about the makeup of these sponsorships that you guys have, and especially because you guys are a company that uses events to drive business, how you guys get sponsors on top of that. It's just so cool. I'm just going to nerd out for a little bit, but talk a little bit about the structure of your sponsors and kind of like how it all works.
Okay. So our sponsorship program comes down to, yes, we do have platinum and we do have everything from, gold, bronze, sponsorships. But what we have business unit owners, where in finances, you have retirement, you have insurance, you have alternative investments, investment advisory. There's so many different ways and so many different sponsors that we have inside this financial world, that what we kind of do with ours is different. And instead of doing it event by event, yes, there are some times with regional events, we might ask like, hey, would you guys still like to sponsor, even though you might be a yearly sponsor? Would you still come back in and sponsor a lunch or something to do with this regional? But for the most part, we do yearly sponsorships where we give out to, platinum members. They always have a rep list. They are always in communications. We give them webinars. We give them anything that they really want. And then at our national conference is where it kind of differentiates, where our big time platinum sponsors will get a general session where everybody really has to attend. And then some, if they're a gold or even a silver, they might get a breakout. And then some just might get an exhibit booth. But due to the different levels that we have, it's all dependent upon what they get throughout the year, because we want to make sure that they know yearly we're giving back to our advisors and giving them something that they might see in return. And we really want to make that known that we're partners. We're not here just to, be for our advisors, but we're also advocates for them. And that's a yearly goal. That's a yearly struggle. I think everybody, they just want the gratification during that event, but you also have to see what we do for you and what you do for us throughout the year. Or is this partnership even working? And that's what people I think should focus on, is that partnership and being clear and concise on what you are going to do for, your advisors, but what you're going to do to create that relationship and keep that relationship with your strategic partners going. So again, we might ask, for a synopsis, we might ask them to do a dinner or sponsor the lunch still, even if they have a yearly sponsorship with us. And for the most part, because they still want to be with us and we're good partners, and we'll still give them a breakout session if they want to talk during that, day on. But we just want to make sure that it's a partnership and that it's a yearly partnership. And so I think a lot of people might get lost in knowing that, oh, we're just looking for the event and we need to cover this cost for the event. Well, try to plan that out. And you really got to have your finances kind of put together and your whole strategic goal. But again, it's a partnership and it's a yearly one for us.
That's incredible. And do you find that because these sponsorships are longer term, that also it ironically increases retention year to year as well? Have you kind of noticed that the same sponsors who are coming back year after year?
Oh, for sure.
Stick around? That's awesome. And I'm also curious to know too, obviously, I'm guessing that these year-long sponsorships, you obviously see a ton of events, talk to other event professionals. We obviously don't have to talk about specific numbers, but are these yearly sponsorships also generally larger than a one-off, like one single conference sponsorship as well? Or what how does that kind of break down for you guys in terms of, size?
So for our yearly one, of course, that's where we go for the bigger dollars, but it also, so those business unit owners, I don't know why I can't say that today, but our business unit owners, they, it depends on that business too. Like our alternative investments, these guys are, they're trying to get you into private equity. They're trying to get you on some type of, realty thing where there's big money. So their structure might be very high to even be a platinum member. We might have somebody come in and say, we'll be so high for you because at the end of the day, we're just one of those bigger companies and we have a bigger marketing budget. But for the most part, some of them, retirement guys, for example, they don't have that type of budget because they're still working in retirement. They're not big money. They're not out there. So for all of those business unit owners, they all have different styles and they all have different packages and they all have different pricing. So it really is up to these business unit owners to come up with that and to say, hey, we're going to give you back by this, this, and this, because this will work well for retirement, but it's not going to work well for alternative investments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And
yeah.
The reason why I asked is I think I was just curious to know too, because I think a lot of times people are just always worried about increasing sponsorship packets and things like that. But I think that what you guys have kind of demonstrated is that you're getting higher the year-long thing would make, you'd feel like you're losing out on something, but it feels almost like a win-win. You're getting higher retention. You're smoothing out cash flow because now it's not just one lump sum for your biggest conference that funds everything else. But I'm guessing that probably the attendees probably like the sponsors because they're way more engaged on long term rather than just I gotta get the list and all these things like that.
Right.
And then I'm guessing too, it's just more revenue for you guys, so therefore you guys can do more things too. Yeah. So this is go ahead. Yeah.
I'll just say, and for us, what's really neat is that we have that repertoire with our sponsors that say, hey, I don't have somebody for this lunch. And you know what? I'm looking for a really good relationship. And I'm like, hey, it's, $2,000. Can you help me out? And they're like, yeah, no problem. Hey, what? You don't even really have to ask because it's the same people, it's the same relationships, and we're still building on just making that, hey, you guys are one of our go-tos. Our people like you will do this. If you can do this for us, you can even talk, or you could do this or give a gift or do whatever. We're really trying to make that known that we go to people that we really trust and that our people, our advisors really trust as well.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I have a bazillion questions as always. Will's brain just is racing. So one thing you mentioned is, and I want to make sure that I heard this right. Did you guys say that you also do, so not in addition to these year-long ones, you also do one-offs? too.
Oh, yeah.
And
So
so
we
and
have
sometimes the one-offs are also the same people that are already doing the year-longs. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, so we have three that we do one-offs of, and one's in spring, one's in fall, and one's in about summertime here in Arizona. So, getting those people out here, I mean, we have to have a pool. But so we do those three, and that's where we ask our people, hey, if we did this, would you guys even be interested? And we just go to them, and we're not saying, oh, with your yearly, you'll be at the regional. We like to put it in also perspective of our spring is all dedicated towards alternative investments. Our fall is dedicated towards practice management. And then our summer workshop is dedicated towards our admins and, the guys that might not get to come to our national convention, but they work so hard in those advisors' offices and they know all the clients and they know all the products that they're selling, but they might not have the opportunity to come to anything else. So we give them that. And then that's where some of our sponsors are like, well, we want to be there too, because those admins are talking to people every day and we want to be a part of that. And that's just something that, we work with, and we've been doing it now for a while, including the training workshop. The training workshop's been going on for a little bit, and this year's different, but the training workshop is a really huge thing, I think, for us and our admins to get in front of our strategic partners, because those are the people that are greeting every day. Those are the people that your people are talking to. So yeah, but there's three. And then I should mention, we do have one more, and that's our incentive trip. And when I say incentive, it's because it's like our president's club. Our top 20 producing people get to come to this one, and it's in a nice spot. So we really ask a very good partner to possibly do a dinner that's going to cost some money. But if we're doing a lot of business and we're helping them out throughout the year, there's usually not a whole lot of problems. And so, yeah, but the incentive one that one's a tough one to get people to kind of come to. You got to ask for a little bit more money.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how to kind of implement this too, because I think people are like, okay, I think I'm bought in. Like, I need to figure out a way to build a long term, multiple events, other things like that as well. And maybe we can talk about the things that are not obvious that you guys incorporate as sponsorship beyond just like the events themselves. But
Right.
one quick question I have for you is like, how do you guys? What's your kind of strategy? I know that you're not in charge of recruiting all the sponsors.
Right.
What's your guys' kind of strategy for attracting these people? Is it as simple? You make it sound like it's super casual. You have such a close relationship. So you're just like, hey, like, so you're going to come back
Right.
next year? Or is it like, and then how do you guys attract new people? What does that like whole process of attracting and retaining your sponsors kind of look like? Any tricks of the trade?
Honestly, it's your marketing. It really comes down to being, genuine in what your marketing is and what type of marketing materials you kind of give those people. So yes, you do virtual webinars, you're doing live events, you're doing streams, your newsletter, like all these little opportunities that come back. You really have to think like, okay, well, how can I market them a little bit better? How can I do this? Should I give them an ad? Should I just do maybe a one-off or, send it out to all of our advisors? There's a lot more marketing that comes to mind when you have to be creative and you have to kind of give the sponsors, hey, you know what? Help us out. We'll kind of help you out. We'll get that new product out there, but we're going to ask something in return, possibly later on down the road, possibly a speaker for our national convention. There's a lot of different things, but it ultimately comes down to how can you market that person and how can you create a strong partnership just for that person. So, say you're doing, I don't know, weddings or your wedding conventions, and how to get that out there. Well, as soon as you get a big sponsor, send out a blast email, do something creative, send out something, get them on a stream with you, tell them why you're excited about that event or what you have going on to show them off and show off what they can bring to the table too, not just for, your people, but for them too, because they want to see that. We want to see these questions. We want to see what's going on. So there's all that involved too.
That's incredible. I think so it sounds like too that you guys almost custom design a lot of times these packages for people too. It's
Yeah.
not just like, hey, take it or leave it. It sounds like you kind of pick and choose and say like, this would be really beneficial for you. So I'll put this one in here. I'm actually going to give that to this sponsor because that might be more beneficial. Is that fair to assume?
Right. Because I mean, a lot of our sponsors, and you have to be serious, like in the financial area, like they're going to be the same people. They're going to be your Charles Schwabs. They're going to be your Morgan Stanleys of the world. But then you have the smaller groups that are coming in, and you have to think like, okay, this person, how am I going to dedicate something to them? How can I get them to retain and to stay and to want to hang out with us and to want to come to our national conference? Like, yeah, you've got to think about that, but also, jot that down on, for next year in your sponsorship package, and make sure that you're keeping up with that too. I think, let's just say we had a big sponsor and they came in and they said, hey, look, you guys didn't really like give us webinars. You really didn't do much. And we're not really interested in doing the platinum package again. That's eye raising. That means that we have an issue and we need to make sure that we're stepping up our game just to keep that partnership and keep that going. But, and I say that, jot it down. How many strategic partners have you done a webinar for? And tell them that when you go to say, hey, last year we actually did 5 webinars for you. Would you be interested in going up one level into this package? We're big trackers. We use Excel, we use everything. And so we keep all of that information, whether it's a field communication to all of our advisors, just stating, hey, look at what they've got going. Look at this new item that they have. Call this person if you're interested. So we do a lot of customization, but we also bring it back down to our sales pitch, basically, when it comes down to September for the next year. We did this. Can you help us here? So a lot of customization, but for the most part, it's still on tune with how we structure things.
That's cool. I love hearing that you guys are tracking everything too. I mean, like we talk about data being everything these days, but like sometimes we also think like, oh yeah, data so I can improve the attendee experience, data so I can understand my attendee. But then you sometimes don't think like that data also can be used to sell right back to sponsors as well. To say like, hey, I know you got 1,000 appointments last year because of us.
Right.
You want to upgrade? Like,
right.
And they're going to be like, you're right. Oh, dang you. This is very viable for me. Okay, let's do it.
Right. Yeah. And then, I mean, for us, we can also see our numbers with that person. Maybe this person, we didn't really do high numbers. We need to either step it up, or is this partnership even worth it?
I like it. Yeah, I mean, because that's something you don't think about too. Like, yeah, what happens if you're not actually driving value? Most of the time you find out you're not driving value at the end when they're like, so want to renew for next year or renew for the next event. And then you sit there and kind of go, oh, this didn't work. And at that point, they've already made their decision. They're like, this wasn't valuable. Versus like, maybe, especially I'm guessing, man, this is just super exciting for me, that for you guys year long, you're seeing multiple touch bases. So you might see one event where they did really poorly. They didn't get a lot of leads, didn't get a lot of value. And you're like, okay, what do we do like the next event to help that vendor out so we can make them feel better? And how can we improve to do that as well? Which, So genius. Manon asked a quick question. So we're talking obviously about how do you build sponsorships into these annual contracts for multiple events and things like that as well. Manon, you might have missed a little bit at the beginning, so definitely go back and rewind a little bit if you get a chance. But what I do think this is interesting is let's talk a little bit about the dogs look all crazy, COVID world. And so whenever it comes to these sponsorships that you're building, how do you guys, aside from the events themselves, right? Sponsor this dinner, sponsor us keynote. What other sort of stuff are you guys, sprinkling in throughout the year to make their year-long sponsorships valuable?
Again, okay, so for us, again, it's really about webinars and it's about newsletters and it's about putting them into perspective with our company and what we're doing and how they kind of play out and what their product is. How is it going to be valuable to everybody? Here I'm actually looking at something like we give them portals, we give them web pages. I've completely forgot, our website too. We have a scrolling bar on our website. There's just so much. And then we even keep our strategic partners on our website that says, hey, look at this person, or what is this person doing? So there's a lot of that. We also do a calendar of events for all of our all of our strategic partners are able to give us, and it used to be a little bit more full, but if they have an event that's open to anybody, we encourage that. We have a calendar of events that's on our webpage that anyone can go into and anyone can register for. If it's a webinar, if it's something to that extent, you know what? If you've been a really great partner, we're here for you. We want that on there, and we want our people to see that as well. So we do have a complete sheet that, we tell them, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to give you dedicated this. And that's something that we customize towards those business unit owners, and they kind of customize it onto what they know, what we can provide for that type of group. So whether it be investment advisory, whether it be retirement, because again, all these groups are a little bit different and they all have either a little bit more money or a little less money. So we get creative and what else can we give them? How can we make them feel important? And again, it's all about that creativity and using all your platforms. LinkedIn, social media, using everything that you possibly can, to really engage them and to keep them relevant into your advisors world. Because, advisors these days, financial advisors, they're a little bit older, 55 plus is our average, but for a lot of them, they're in tune and they might not read everything, but they're pretty in tune on what's going on, or they have somebody in their office showing them what's going on and how to do things or helping them. Again, why their admin is so important. So, yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Probably keep the questions coming, everybody. We love answering them as well. Another question that we're getting in as well is like biggest mistakes when it comes to making these annual sponsorship packets or packets, not packages. I don't know why I can't talk today either.
Yeah.
But I get the idea. Like, what sort of things do people not think about that you're like, we made this mistake, don't ever do this? Like, what sort of war stories you got to share?
War stories. I think that honestly, that really comes back down to your ROI and what is that return on investment for somebody, because somebody might be really upset that we did not fulfill our commitment to them and what they came back with. So, war stories, we've had people pull out, and just say like, look, we don't have this. You don't have numbers for this. That's why I feel as if planners really have to pay attention to anything that they're using, that ROI. We want to, and when somebody comes back and tells you that you're not doing your job, it really entices you to do your job and maybe do it a little bit better. But I think the worst part is, or not knowing, when someone comes back to you and tells you that something was not worth it, and you don't know, like, until they're like, well, we're out. And you're like, you didn't even give me an opportunity to fix it or an opportunity to be better. So what is it that you're kind of looking for? And those aren't partnerships that necessarily you want. You want a partner that's going to tell you, look, guys, like, we're 6 months in and we haven't seen a rep list. We haven't seen this. You haven't done this for us. Really try to strive for partners that want to be communicative and that want to tell you, like, I'm really looking for this. I really need this. And you're not performing, and we're, quarter 2 or 6 months or anything like that. But having somebody come up and tell you basically at your national conference that they won't be back, that stinks. So I'm that one hits hard, just because how are you supposed to know when nobody's really communicating with you?
Yeah, definitely. It's like you get all of a sudden you get when you've been dating for a couple months and the girl comes and says, "Hey, we need to talk."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh God, I know what this is about." Or if you're like
Yeah.
an employer and you hear that, "We need to talk."
Right.
So it sounds like too, like you guys very much, again, you're like focused on the relationship portion too. So it sounds like there's a little bit of vetting that you guys do too. Do you guys ever turn down sponsors that you guys feel like won't benefit from this because you're afraid that you won't be able to drive them ROI or anything like that?
Yes. So I'll give you an example. Like, we've had to tell people, it's really not worth almost our time to do the due diligence it takes to see if we're actually a good match, because there's only so many people that have so much money with you that there's really no point in having this relationship. We would actually prefer that person move their money to this person. So we've had to tell people, and that's, It's a sad thing. Or especially with us, and like at a national conference, we really try to give everyone an opportunity, meaning we try to give them an exhibit hall booth at least. But then again, we do have to turn people away and just say, the money's not right, or this isn't right. We're not really feeling this. You're a little too new. Get us when you're about 3 to 5 years and you have a little bit more client base. And that really stinks to say, but because you don't want to turn away anybody good, but if they don't have the repertoire and they don't have that back action behind them, do you really want to be the first one to kind of be out there with them going, hey, yeah, it's just not working, like we really like to see people with a little bit more experience in whatever platform or whatever they are selling, whether that's insurance or retirement or AI stuff. So yeah.
That makes sense too, because like your sponsors are a reflection of you guys and your brand, right? And so like if your attendees are showing up and there's a sponsor who's just like, bleh, it's like, well, why are they here? No, like you want to have like the cream of the crop hanging out with you guys, because then it reflects back on you as well.
And don't get me wrong, we do that with advisors. I mean, we're the hub for advisors, so we do a rep. We sit there and do a whole rep thing on, is this person really going to fit our culture? Are we all going to benefit from this? Because if that person's not in the kind of like what we like to do, or they're doing something kind of, backhand, or we have to come across things, we do it with everyone, not just sponsors. So even employees, does this person really fit your culture?
Sure, for sure, right? And like it's about like, honestly, like as much as we all want to be inclusive and everyone be one, I think there's a lot where they say the riches are in the niches, and like there's a lot of things around exclusivity and focusing around that, right? So I think it's very smart to do that as well. What I think that we think a lot about how sponsors like sound like drive a little bit of like, they have booths there, they they help make these activities happen. How do you involve sponsors also in the designing of your events and kind of the what type of content you're picking and things like that? Because like from what I know about you guys is that you guys have such a tight relationship with them that it sounds like also as well that you're also getting feedback from them saying, hey, we should do this kind of thing. Can you give some examples of how like you also utilize the sponsors, not for more than just their money?
Right. So like last year at our national convention, which is, we call it our annual partners conference, which is our APC. So just so everybody knows what that is. When I say APC, last year, for example, one of our strategic partners came up to me and 30 minutes before their whole breakout session, they said, we want to incorporate beer. We want to have a happy hour in there. Can you make it happen? And I was like, oh shoot, we can make that happen. But it is a lot of give and take. How do you want to see it go down? Would you prefer that we, like our tech group, maybe we should make a tech room for them? Would they be excited about that? Would they prefer, some of them are like, hey, we really like a booth on a wall so we can project something, or we can do that. We're definitely open ears to their ideas, B, the things that they want, and C, we want to see the vision too. And you know how many people came in that breakout just because he had a couple beers in there? There was a waiting line. And I thought, that's something that you just don't see, but they came up with that. I didn't have to do that for them. They asked me just to put it together, and it was on the spot, Johnny on the spot. Just be there, be present, and be known, and let them know, like, I'm here to help you. If that's what this is going to take, because you're competing against 3 other breakouts. And yes, I love them, but if that's going to help you, then let's do it. Let's try it. Let's see how this happens. And I think a lot of that comes into that's just relationships, and that's all about it, and trying to make it a little bit better. But they are also welcome to come with us and say, hey, we have an idea. And we always ask on that survey and on that feedback, what are ideas from you? What have you guys seen? What has worked and what hasn't worked? And they tell us, hey, you know what? We'd really like this game at the beginning of here, or we really like roundtables to be on day 1. And we change it. We do it the next year. We try to incorporate a lot of changes because it's an ever evolving market, obviously.
That is incredible. I always forget that sometimes I'm off camera and I'm muted.
No, no worries.
I
I
was
was
just like
well,
blow my. So they wanted beer. I just because of the logistical side of me always asked. Were you just like like went to basically the hotel and said like, hey, we need to get a bar, we need to get alcohol, and then you were like, you basically told the sponsor, be like, I don't know what this is gonna cost, but you like, can I just bill you after? Like was
right.
it that just chill relationship, or they were like, no, I got to see the quote, I got to see what it is, or
Oh
they
yeah.
just like, nah, I
No.
don't care what the cost is, let's make it happen.
I go, I'm going to bill you afterwards. I just need your credit card. You guys cool? And you're going to sign off on it because we're going to
Oh,
make this
nice.
happen. And it's not like going to the hotel. It's like sprinting towards your CSM, asking like, hey, look, can you just grab a couple buckets, throw some beers in there and, have a guy? And they're like, yeah, we can do that. Totally. So that's
Nice.
that's another partner that you have to work with is your hotel, your venue. And if it's not vibing, there's a little bit of an issue there too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What sort of like gotchas or things that like people won't think about when they're designing these long-term relationships with their sponsors? Like what sort of things do people not think about that that pop up every day that you're like, yeah, people just don't realize like this happens, or it sounds like you have one. You got like a gasp in there. So I think this sounds like there's a gotcha somewhere in there.
Well, the gotchas I think again come down to what we're not doing for them. And they come back and they're like, what? And so I think a lot of like the gotchas come back after an event where I'm like, holy, okay, I wouldn't have thought about that. Or they're asking for something and I didn't deliver enough of it or something to that effect. And I think our gotchas, so to be honest, United Planners, we've been doing this this is our 33rd annual 33rd year. And we've had a few annual partners conferences. The gotchas really come back on almost design of you should have put us where the food was, or we should have been here, and the gotchas really kind of, they get you. And you're like, well, that kind of stinks. I can't really fix that. And so I think that when it really comes down to gotchas, it's now more creative. And if we're not moving with the times, social media and the platforms and really getting that in there, then they're going to come back and they're going to tell you like, it's just not working. And so I hope that answers your question. I haven't had any gotchas where we're like, oh, every day is a gotcha. I think like my exhibit booth isn't in the right spot, or I don't have this, or where is this? Why am I not getting this? And I'm like, I'm trying, man. I got you. I'll get you. But am I doing it fast enough? I don't know. So
I turn a gotcha into I gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
I gotcha.
So then I think one last burning question that I have before we kind of put a bow on this one, because I think this was an incredible episode. What part of sponsorships do you think need to die? Like, so you see it all the time because we all attend events, we hear sponsors ask for things. What sort of part of sponsorship needs to just like die? Like yours, like people asking for this, or events that are doing this. What sort of piece of the sponsorship need to die?
Now, does it need to die or does it need to ramp up? Like I really feel as if getting them the information quicker for their ROI. Some parts of me are like, man, I really wish that all this technology wasn't out there because they're experiencing it at different conferences. And I'm not able to provide maybe, how many booth touches they got at this conference because we just didn't have the allocated funds for it. But what should die during sponsorships? I don't know. That's a really good one, Will. I mean, I'm just sitting here. I don't know, because we're so customized and so creative, but I think what needs to die is putting it all in one box. I think everybody is so unique and everything is so different that putting a sponsorship in one box and just saying, hey, for everybody, we have one sponsorship and you're in. It's like, can they really afford that? Can they really be about that? And are you putting people, in a box? Should, again, I'll go back to weddings even. Should your cake decorators and, your bakers and everything, should they have their own sponsorship? Should your bridal gown people have their own sponsorship? Like, because, a really big bridal company is going to come in and they're going to want to do things. And of course, they have a bigger booth and they have all this. And, you got your baker over here who's like, I don't have that opportunity because I can't afford that. Well, think outside the box. I mean, put them in a different sponsorship. Don't put them in one, because you're setting up people for failure. And I don't know if that's fair.
Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. And I think you're right, because, for one person, clicks to their website might be like the most incredible thing. But for another person, it might be
Right.
specifically face-to-face meetings with customers. For some people, it's just brand awareness. For some people, it's just they want to give back to a community
Right.
group or something like that. So I love that. Like, not always considering your sponsors as humans, as a unique chance to do something totally different is awesome.
Right. I just think putting them in different categories too, and makes them feel maybe a little bit more important as well.
I like it. You got to give people choice. Everybody wants choice, right?
Right.
All right. So my final two questions I'd love to ask. So this doesn't have to be related to sponsorship or anything like that, but what if you had to pick like one tip that you would give planners, what would you give them?
Ooh, one tip. So I would say, work with your partners and use what your partners already have. AKA, I'll give you a shout out here, Will, Endless. Endless puts out an incredible amount of information. Start looking at it. If you're using them, start opening up what they're sending. Cvent, we work with Cvent. Use their webinars. Start really going and really putting yourself in it, and really looking at the technologies out there, because we're going tech, and obviously virtual and everything else, whatever you claim virtual is. Really start using your partners. Don't always just think, oh well, this is this. I would say start relying on them. Start using them. They have better optics for ROIs on all of your sponsor people. Start using the partnerships that you already have, or the free ones.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I was not expecting that at all. That was so nice of you. Thank you. I guys, I promise I didn't pay Taylor to say that sort of things.
No,
thank you so much.
I'm paying you, actually.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's awesome though, because that's one thing I've been preaching a lot of people, is that people keep going, I'm not sure what technologies to do and everything like that. I'm like, guys, who to talk to. You just got to go talk to them right now. And, whether it's an Endless or whoever your friends are in the events industry,
Right.
people keep going well, how do I, how can I saw some posts how can I do a happy hour virtually? I'm like, why don't you go talk to the people that do the happy hours in person? They're probably thinking a ton about virtual happy hours right now. Right. So
Right.
definitely love that one as well. Okay. And then speaking of
I think
where to go.
Yes.
No, you're good.
You just
You're
throw
good.
that one in. Get involved in whatever you're doing and in your community. You just come back with a better retention of even just more partners.
Definitely. And then, okay. So my last question, you talked a little bit about resources, favorite, resources in the entire, industry. Where do you go to learn things? What apps, gadgets, blogs, what's your favorite stuff right now?
Honestly, my favorite thing right now is I want to say it's the publications. There's so much information and it's constantly changing, whether I'm getting an email from, an events meetings today or something like that, webinars. The Event Industry Council for us is they're a huge source. And they have so many other people and partners in their back pocket that the things that they're putting out there are changing, and it's ever changing, and they're up and in tune, and these people are talking to everyone. So I would say, really, if you're not on publications, if you're not getting emails from certain groups, get those emails. Look through them. Yeah, some of them might be long and you don't have to look through every one of them, but if you see something that sparks your interest and, hey, I really do that, read it. Because they're coming up, this is all about our industry, and this is what it's all about. And if we're not really helping each other by not reading and not learning. So I say publications. I'm having the best time actually kind of listening in and seeing what other people might be going through at this time, because our industry's hit, and it's been hit hard, and it really makes me grateful, but also at the same time, it really makes me think, how should I be doing this? How should I be doing this a little bit better? I should be upping my game during this downtime. And the best way to do that, I think, has been through publications and all that jazz.
Definitely. I can't agree more. Like this is a time to level up and,
Mhm.
learn and grow. And, I definitely have seen that too. Like, I think I see, what I've talked to almost every industry publication, like traffic is through the roof. Everybody's reading more. And, I think the thing is to figure out then too, like the next level of that is then how am I going to implement all these things I just learned into the future
Right.
to like learn and grow, right? Implement all day. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for being
Thank
here. This
you.
has been so incredible. It's always great to chat with you. And I think you have so many great ideas, and I just love how your guys' events are run and, how you guys treat your sponsors and all of your stakeholders in your events.
Thank you.
Super duper awesome. And thank you for coming on the show and sharing. Big shout
No,
outs to everybody who's tuned in right now.
thank you.
Ty, Manon. I also see Chris Simmons, one of our fellow Einsteins, also hanging out as well. Matt, and a couple few others on here that too many comments to scroll through. So thank you guys so much for joining us as well and hanging out with Taylor and I as we talk about some long-term
Thank you guys.
sponsorship. So thank you again, Taylor, for being here. Thank you to our audience. And don't forget, if you're watching this live right now, to go subscribe event-icons.com so you don't miss another episode. Or if you only caught like half of this, you can go back and rewatch it, or catch the recording with a transcription of all Taylor's awesome musings as well. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Taylor. And we'll see you guys all next week on Event Icons. Everybody have a fantastic day.
Will.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch all of the bonus content, resources mentioned, and an invite to our Facebook and LinkedIn groups, head to www.event-icons.com. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway, and just tag your social media post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon, right here on #EventIcons.